I sold some wetsuits I had at my beach house. So my son dropped them off for me to sell to this guy on the way home from the beach.
They're
Yeah.
used wetsuits?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I never knew there was a market for used wetsuits. That sounds like
Wetsuits are
buying a used
expensive.
couch or a used mattress.
There's a beautiful full suits and spring suits. They're
Isn't
expensive.
that like using a used mattress? Like to me, I wouldn't want to buy a used wetsuit. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. You know, people always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Welcome to the CCTG podcast, Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we explore the daily lives of CCTG graduates and even lenders in the field of finance. So we're gonna explore, what graduates are doing, what are they seeing, and this podcast is we have a very special guest, probably one of the most energetic graduates I've come across to date. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to present Bennett Abel to you of Abel Commercial Funding. Bennett, how you doing today, Bennett?
Yeah, love the applause here. I've been a big audience. I'm doing great here at the end of summer, which is depressing for me, but I'm doing just fine. Thanks.
Good. Tell me how are you doing with this whole COVID stuff? Have you jumped out of the window? Is your wife annoying you? Is what's going on?
It's for some, it might be sad for me to say. I mean, really, my life is great. At my age, I don't go to bars every day, so I'm not missing on that. My business, and we'll talk about that soon, is great. So really, I'm missing out, maybe going to a baseball game or something like that. But other than that, I mean, life is good. You know, you're eating good food. You're unfortunately taking out food, which is never as good. Right. But when it comes to me, if I'm making money, my wife's happy, I'm happy. But more importantly, my son's a freshman at school. He's going to be a sophomore at college. So I have his, since March, his depression on that he couldn't be at school for the second half. He's going back next week to Arizona. Mm-hmm. The things have been changed a little bit, So as far as from my kid's standpoint, which affects all of us parents, when they're not happy, we're not happy. When you say, how am I doing? How's am I affecting life in quarantine? It's fine, but obviously we want them really happy, and he'll be happy once he gets back to Arizona. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I just want life back to normal, and it's slowly getting that way. It really is,
Yeah, we're kind of experiencing that here. Obviously, we had to take the training virtual. We had to convert virtual. I used to be a big proponent of not virtual. You got to be here in person. Virtual wasn't even an option. And boy, has the world changed the way we do business in terms of CCTG.
Yeah.
But the last 5 months have been probably have been the largest classes to date. And but we've adapted, and what's great is the team here has adapted.
Right.
We just moved into a new office. We're probably about the only company that's moving into a newer and bigger office and doing these times. But as you know, my staff have it's a real team effort here, and they've adapted to change really well. So
fabulous.
We're up and running, and we're marching on as we always do. Listen, I really want to thank you for taking your time out of your busy day. I know things are crazy right now with funding and particularly the areas of finance you concentrate on. But tell me about I think what's intriguing about your story is, what you did before compared to what you're doing now. And, tell me about your journey, just, what you did before you're a finance entrepreneur and how you ended up at CCTG.
Yeah. Life is never a straight line, right? And growing up in a family of radio, my father owned radio stations all over DC, and not really having a clear direction. Do I want to go down that path or not? I chose to, right out of college, go down that path in radio, saying it might be a good opportunity to at least have a platform to learn from. I moved back from Florida from school to DC because of my connections to the radio business. Being in the business 3 or 4 years, my father got bought out by Bonneville, a major radio conglomerate. So timing was perfect for him. It kept me in the advertising. field, though. I stayed in the game, didn't work for the company that bought him, but I ended up working for a direct mail company and learning advertising, working with small to medium-sized businesses and some national play.
So hold on, you actually did sales for, like, when your father was in radio? Did you sell radio ads?
I did. And matter of fact, even at my college radio station, I worked there for some extra credits. And in the summers here in DC, I worked at a radio station. My father has a big name here in DC. There's not many mom and pops that own radio stations. So he was definitely a success here. And, following that footpath would have been kind of nice. Again, I wasn't in love with the business, but I liked advertising. I liked people. So coming out of college, do we all know what we want to do? We don't, and it'll lead me to you in a minute at 42 years old, when I made a change. But so through the years, I stayed in advertising, from direct mail to internet. Mm-hmm. And everything had the same goal: find a lead, sell the lead by product knowledge of what you're selling and how I can help a company grow their business. And in that case, it was finding them leads, right? I had to find the lead to tell them why they should buy the advertising, whether it was radio or internet. And over the years, working for companies, big corporations, venture capitalists out of Wall Street with the internet, I wanted my own gig, and I enjoyed it. But after 20 years of working for someone else, and advertising kind of having their challenges towards the recession in 2009, it made me start to wander mentally, and that I know what I'm good at. And that's one of the things when people say, hey, how did you get started in sales? It's a natural thing. It's hard to train how to be good in sales. It's got to be in your personality. That I have. And that when I was with the internet company, I learned a lot about social media. I learned a lot about pay-per-click. I learned a lot about how people are growing their business through online. And that at that point, they got bought out. Okay. So I was looking for something. I made some money, not enough to, retire on, but I was like, okay, now's my time to look at franchises, look at everything from retail and this was coming out of the 09, 10, 11 recession. Mm-hmm. So what business is going to thrive out of a recession? And I had a lot of ideas, and I thank God I chose this business in the commercial brokering business, because the businesses that I was looking at were retail oriented. They'd be out of business right now. Okay. With COVID, right. They were service businesses. There's liability in a lot of these. I stumbled on it, and that money was part of my game. I had some money and I had a lot of contacts, and I started saying, hey, people can't get money. People were calling me for money. It started giving me the idea of like, wow, I don't have to do anything, and I can charge interest on some of this money, and I can, kind of have a passive way. But the main part, I parlayed my experience, Kris. Like when people say like, why are you good at what you do? Or why are you so successful? I feel like all my advertising and my ideas of generating leads was a perfect connection with what we do. Okay. Because at the end of the day, business is about getting a lead and knowing how to sell it. Right. And I have more leads than I can handle. And I'm not saying they're all great leads. That's not the problem. That's a great problem. Okay. Right. So I really, it led me down. I just looked around with learning about financing. I had no experience, but I know that if I believe in something with my energetic tone, I can sell anything. And I felt like, because I'm so, well, I don't want to say this, but everyone should be honest, but I'm clean. I'm honest. I'm a sensitive to interest. I'm sensitive to my borrowers, which I knew would make me successful for the repeat business. So
that's, I think you couldn't have said it better. I mean, it sounds like you had the recipe to be in this business. You just didn't have the tools. Right. You didn't know the ingredients yet. You kind of knew the blueprint based on you're good at sales. You're good at talking to people. And I always said in this business, if you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Exactly. As much as automation as we can do on the marketing side, in terms of lead flow and lead generation, at the end of the day, you're still talking to people, which I think is a very, very important trait. So, all right. So take me up to, you found us how long ago? When did you come through our training?
February of 2015.
Okay.
Okay.
For that. You guys were like a party class. I remember that. You guys, when you were here, we have some bars and restaurants. near here, near the office in downtown Albany. And I always remember that about that class.
Well, that's the great thing about the class is that not only being in person is just the way to go, but when I talk to future grads, when I talk to people, even Rick Sharp, I was like, it's a shame he couldn't have flown up there, one of my employees, is that the camaraderie. Look, I'm one of 25 people in your class. I fly up on a Sunday night. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have did I do the right thing? I've never been to Albany in my life. I don't even know where Albany was on the map. Okay.
Albany's one of those capitals that you kind of forget about in grade school, right? So I've met people in this country where they say, where are you from? And I go, the capital of New York. And they go, oh my God, New York City. We love it there. It's like, no, the town called Albany.
Well, thanks for Governor Cuomo, because he's putting you on the map, of course, because he's always broadcasting from there. But, being in that class, it actually helped me because I always say you want to gravitate towards 4 to 5 people. I gravitated towards 4 or 5 partiers that were smart, that were aggressive like me. And because of that, I think that's what made me successful. We carried on conference calls once a week. We shared the same things. We were all in this together. We all had no experience in this business. And afterwards, we'd go by hit the Hilton across the street and have a drink or 2 or 3 and really learn from each other. And then I was able to call those people. So it's so important. If I didn't have that, who knows what would have happened, Yeah,
I mean, listen, as you know, everybody has a different makeup. And I think, each person brings skills to this business. And also, that may be better than others, right? So some of our graduates have better skills than others, but I think the fact that you guys can lean off one another and help one another is a great thing. I mean, we see that at our conference, at our what I call the CCTG reunion conference, NACLB. We see graduates kind of get together and share ideas and share what's working and what's not working. So
invaluable. Great. I mean, your conferences are amazing. The self breakout sessions are fabulous, but it's just the camaraderie. What is this person doing that I'm not doing? You're learning such invaluable things. I mean, and I'm always amazed at some of these people, like their personalities are different than mine.
Right.
They're killing it as well. And it just shows me that, I always believe in that your clients are like you, right? You sell people like you. Right. And my clients, you'd love them. I mean, they're my style, and that's probably why they bought me.
Sure. And speaking of that, I'll mention to everybody. I mean, Bennett, feel free to brag, but it's well deserved. You won Broker of the Year at our conference.
Yeah, that was I think my first year, second year. Yeah. Look, life is about luck. All right. I mean, I'd like to say that I'm lucky, but I did put myself in position to be lucky. And, by doing that was going out, and it's hard work, meeting people. And I just had referrals. I reached out to people. I'm not scared of just reconnecting with people. And that's whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, the social media platforms allow you to reconnect with people and do your own research behind the scenes.
Right.
And, being Broker of the Year was for me impressive because I was just a newbie in this business. But I was able to gravitate towards some big deals that kind of branched off from there. It's like a domino in this business.
So, you had attended our training, and just I know we're going to get this question because everybody always asks, and I know you're somewhere deep in our testimonial videos. But what package did you purchase?
I purchased the platinum.
Platinum package.
And how couldn't I? But one of the things is I was 42 years old.
So why did you purchase that over some of the others that we have?
Well, because one, I have a family of 4, and I was changing careers at such a late age. Okay, which I needed leads yesterday. I don't have time to wait. This business, you've got to plant your seeds, but the seeds don't sprout right away. So what does sprout right away is lead generation. And how couldn't I buy it? Because I was in the business. I know how time consuming buying pay-per-clicks, doing the research through Google. I didn't have the time for that. When I do something.
It's funny you say that because you had experience in digital marketing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't have the time to do it. My time needs to be out to the bankers. My time needs to go out to my referral partners and do meetings, not be on the computer and buy through Google and do my social media blogging and let out your team do it for me, because I knew how essential it was. You can't start a business out without really, leads, social media. I hear it constantly. Okay. Bennett, I love the way you've branded your business.
Mm-hmm.
And without the marketing team, without my platinum, without the social media, the blogging, I wouldn't be able to brand this thing.
Yeah.
And it's all branding, you know?
You know what's crazy? And I'll tell you a little insight into our life here is that a lot of graduates that come through like yourself that have digital marketing experience or have paid a lot of money for it in other business models, they don't question it one bit.
Right.
It's the people that don't have experience that question it and go, you know, I could do it myself. And, you know, we've had people that owned SEO companies come through here and say, look, I've owned an SEO company. I don't want to do it. It's a full-time job. My full-time job now is commercial loan brokering, you know?
Exactly. And when I get
how that happens, you know?
And it's so funny too, because I think we've heard it on a past call where, well, how many leads are you getting through Facebook, and how many leads are you getting through your pay-per-click? I'm so busy, Kris. My business has been going up every single year. So whatever I'm doing with the platinum package is working. You know, I'm very detailed, I'm very numbers oriented. And I look at my sales per month versus my expenditures. It doesn't matter how many leads I'm getting, because my income is amazing.
Getting opportunity. I call it the opportunity rule, right? It doesn't matter where they come from. It's just the opportunity itself, right? The more opportunities you see, the more you're going to close.
That's right. Especially at the beginning, Kris, at the beginning with these new graduates, you need to practice. And how do you practice selling? By getting leads. And so how can they be better if they're not getting the leads to sell? And the platinum package enabled me to get leads yesterday.
Right.
And like you said at training, within the first 6 months, you won't need, you know, the John and Max to assist me after 6 months. And that's true. But in order to get there, you needed practice.
Right.
Conference calls with John. You needed the assistance. And I felt being a platinum kind of jump-started my business. And it was the best decision I made.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We were happy to serve you. I know you drove our marketing team nuts. Yeah. I mean, every day Alex would run into my office and go, this guy Bennett, he's like crazy. He's calling me every day and he's asking me this, asking me that. But, you know,
it's scary, you know? I mean, look, I mean, you guys have been through this number of years before I started, and that you probably have a lot of people like Bennett Abel at the beginning that is not sure about this decision or not sure about the platinum. And because of Alex's patience and your team, look, now if you ask him how I'm doing and I'm in his face at all, nothing. And it's like, whatever you want to do, Alex, I give him complete control of really a lot of things.
Right.
You know? And that's the way it should be.
Well, you shouldn't be focused on, you know, if somebody's doing the marketing for you, you should be focused on doing what you do best, you know, talking to people, getting deals in the door and closing them.
Right.
That's your job.
I have so many people, Kris, here in DC are like, who did your website? I love what you've done with your website and your videos and your social media, and who's doing this and who's doing that. And even other brokers that call me to go through me, the first thing they do is, I just love the way your website is presenting your business. Mm-hmm. And through, you know, your team's help, we have put together a phenomenal website, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. I'm a mover and a shaker. I'm a sales guy. I'm not a behind the scenes guy.
Right.
And it's all like, a website's your bumper sticker for your business.
Sure.
That's the most important part of your business, really.
I mean, you know, it still amazes me today, the amount of brokers I run into, non-CCTG graduates, that try to run a business and they don't even have a website. And their thinking is, I don't need a website, you know, and I'm like, what? You know, in today's age, it's like, it's not even to me, it's not an option. It's a requirement. Like, you got to have a website, and you got to have more than that. But, you know, starting there, it's a must have. So, you know, so obviously your journey was interesting. You went through training. You were pretty successful early on. Tell me about some of the pitfalls just getting into the industry that you had to face. What were some things that maybe you didn't realize prior to getting into this industry that kind of surprised you and caused, you know, some hiccups here and there?
I think product knowledge, you know, the week of class, you're going through a lot of different products, and you don't know, they all sound amazing. You just don't know which one might suit you in your local area. And then when you turn on your marketing, I turn on the leads, oh my God, Here my leads are
I do.
coming in.
Right.
And I reached out to John. I'm like, look, John, I learn by example. Okay. I don't read books. I learn by listening. Okay. And watching. And I go, John, I need you. Okay. Just don't leave me hanging. And he was part of my drinks that week. So luckily I had him. And
Well, that's what I'm saying. You probably bought your way into John.
exactly.
Being that he does like a fine glass of bourbon once in a while. So
yeah. And I think I learned by example. So I was freaked out because I've always had the product knowledge of any product down, and that I was worried that my borrowers would know more than me. And that's a worry, right? So John, I would get the lead. I would say, I would learn about what they want. And then John would help me on the call as my partner. I would introduce him as my partner. But I think one of the main pitfalls was just being not as versed as my borrower, because in this business, we're the experts. Right. And I had to portray that. And so for me, it was definitely a new thing because I've been in advertising all my life and I had never been in the world at all. And so that was a concern, as well as, wow, these rates are high. Of course, I'm going to charge 4 or 5 points. Of course, all this, but are the borrower's going to take it or not? And that I'm a borrower myself. So like I had to believe in what I charge.
Yeah. And that's, you bring up a good point, because as a trainer, an educator, a lot of things, what I see is when graduates come in here, they have a consumer mindset. Like my rate is 3.5%. My car loan is 4 or 5%, and getting their mind, rate is different in the business world than it is in the consumer world, right? Because you could attach an ROI to a rate, right? It's what are you doing with the money, and what's the return on that money used, right? And so of course, you're speaking of alternative financing products. Yes, the rate is higher, and for a lot of graduates, they have to struggle to say, gee, this is 15%, or it could be 18%. My car loan is 4%. Wow, these are high rates, but not realizing that in the business world, it's a different analysis on rate, which I'm sure you realized probably pretty quickly for some of these business owners. It made sense to them.
But back to sales 101, it's the needs analysis. So by asking those questions, like, sir, no disrespect, I mean, you sound like you're very experienced in finance. You've been in this business for a long time, flipping houses. Can I ask you a question? I mean, you're calling an alternative finance company. Why? Well, because I went to the bank and they're only going to finance me up to 2 LLCs per year with a flip. And so basically there you go. So whatever rate I say, he doesn't really have an option because he already went down the path of least of resistance.
Traditional
of the bank.
Yeah.
And so now I've got the guy, but without a question, I wouldn't have gotten it.
Got it.
So,
yeah.
And I'm very light on points. I mean, my model is a little bit maybe different than some others, but yes, I think that, we had to come and say that they're calling us for a reason,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, and a lot of points you bring up, I think a lot of graduates kind of overcome or realize, and some people come through here. We do have competitive lenders for competitive rates, but as a lot of graduates realize after they come through here, you could make more money with selling the, what I call B, C, and D paper type of transactions, because there's more margin, right? I mean, if you have a competitive borrower and put them in a competitive deal, that's all fine and dandy, and you could monetize that. But what a great value proposition when somebody comes to you and says, I've exhausted all options.
Exactly. But without the question, you're not going to get it.
Correct.
Why are you calling me? What are you doing? Matter of fact, competition is good. People often ask me, there's so many brokers in this business, how do you do so well? But also from the lender standpoint, I'm seeing these past 2 weeks, my Lord, I'm seeing pricing back to better than pre-COVID pricing.
Right.
Got another lender that was there for me during the March and April that I found. He was there for me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Bennett, where you been these past 2 weeks? And I felt so bad, Kris, because I have that relationship with my guys.
Sure.
They were either referred to me or there were some of yours, and they go, Bennett, where you been? I know this guy's back on board, and I felt bad. And I'm like, look, Jason, I need you guys. He's like, well, what's going on out there? Tell me what their competitors are offering. I want to help him. Right. I said, you need to consider moving up your leverage. You need to consider moving down your fees. Thank you, Bennett, for that. Thank you, because everyone wants to be competitive. So what's happening now is there's so much competition in let's say the flip space, that these lenders are dropping their pants because the other guy already did. So it's helping us brokers.
Yeah, and I bet since you do a lot of volume with a lot of, our lenders and such, there's times where they may call you up and say, hey, Bennett, what do you think we could do better? What are you seeing out there? Because they realize they're not the only lender in town that you're working with. And I know we get that with our brokerage, where they call us up and say, hey, what's the competitor doing and what could we do better? And so we give, we critique that because let's face it, you're on the street, right? I mean, you're seeing what's going on with borrowers. They're only getting it after you see it. So a lot of times going to brokers is, the front line.
Right. These are my family. Without them and their money, I'm not making money.
Right.
So I'm very sensitive to them. You had once mentioned it's very important when you put your package together to these lenders, not to make it like a general, make it kind of personalized.
Sure.
You don't want them to know that you're like throwing out this lead to 10 different non-recipient addresses.
Shopping.
You got to really pinpoint it down. It's a science. Yeah. But I also do so much volume with one or two. And that's why I always tell people to kind of latch on if you can, because what happens is they see the volume that you give them and they might loosen up on their points to you, which helps you in the long run.
Absolutely. So, and that's a good segue into, you went through training, you went through a couple pitfalls here and there, but then you eventually started closing transactions. What products do you focus on? I mean, what products did you gravitate to, and what made you where you are today?
Yeah. I chose the housing market. I chose the fix and flip space. A lot of my friends were doing that when I went to training with you. And I was up there for those 7 days. And my friends were all saying, I do fix and flip, Bennett. This is what I do. This is the money I'm charged. So I had an idea of what's going on in my local market here in DC. I chose that. And I chose commercial real estate, from 5 units or more. Not necessarily 1 to 4s. I chose the warehouses, the industrials that you go over with us. Not necessarily the CMBS. That was a little bit too large, but just kind of like the small balance commercial, right? That prime and bunch of what you have gone over with me at the training. And then I fell into the 1 to 4s. So I kind of felt really comfortable right away, and I knew what I wanted right away. As I could tell Alex, I wanted the fix and flip, I wanted the commercial real estate, I want some business loans, because I listened to you with kind of like, what's your quick money, what's your medium paid out money, and what's your longer term commissions. And again, I got that family of 4, I got college down the road, I need money yesterday. So I chose those 3, which were fabulous, and the line of credit. And just, I love it. I mean, I was telling someone the other day, Kris, I love my space. I love the fix and flippers. They watch HGTV. There's so much excitement over housing. And if you look at all the reports, how can you not? It's so fun. There's so many people that are getting out of their everyday now and going into being a real estate investor because they lost their job or what, and now they want to get into housing, and there's still a lot of great opportunities when it comes to that. So, I chose those spaces, and it made it easier because I kind of had direction. But it's very important that you know all spaces, because I get all calls from all different types of borrowers, not just in the housing, but I focus a lot of my marketing in my platinum on that space.
So can we pretty much bet that you're watching the Home and Garden TV on Friday nights?
Yeah, but I also watching that, what's her name? Joe and Sherry out of Vegas, and like flipping Vegas, and she's so cute. And I'm like, my wife's really cute too, but I don't know if I could flip houses with my wife, because I'd want to put in the cheapest material, and she's putting in the most expensive material. But you should watch it. It's a great show. It's a husband and wife team, and they're called Flipping Vegas.
Okay.
They go out in the suburbs of Vegas, and buying properties for, 200 or 300, putting in 50. But what amazes me the most is these borrowers call me and like, Bennett, I just made 70 grand on this flip. Thanks so much for your help. I got another one next week. Like they're like,
so that's the case in point, and listen, let's just say hypothetically the money's at 15-16%. Let's just say it was, right? The interest rate is really insignificant. Right? Back to when we're talking about alternative lending, because if somebody could take that money that they borrowed and flip it and, make 100 grand, the fact that they paid 15% on their money in 6 months, is insignificant.
Well, I got two things for that. And it's funny. You said, so Rick, he just started working for me now. And he had a call today from a guy, and he put me on the phone, introducing me as his partner again. That's what I did. And he said, Bennett, he's going to be a little reluctant on this interest rate. He's used to getting bank money at 4%. And I said, I bet you $5 his leverage is not what my leverage is at the bank. It's going to take longer and there's going to be a prepayment penalty. Right. And I said, well, with his experience, I can get him 8.5%. So we get on the call.
Right.
The CPA, which is a problem.
That's always fun when the CPA gets on.
Exactly. And you came up today too, because I told Rick, I was like, Rick, CPAs don't like us, but they're not the ones that need to borrow money half the time. Their clients do. And how dare those CPAs tell them not to borrow money because they'd be out of business. And I'll give you a story about that in a minute. So this guy, I'm like, sir, you're going to be why are you calling me? Well, I can only do 2 LLCs a year with the bank. Okay. Well, we can allow you to do as many as you want. And our rate's going to be 8.5%. What were you paying over there? 4.5. I'm giving you 90% leverage. What were you getting with the bank? I was getting 70. Okay. Did they have a prepayment penalty? Yes, we don't. We take no tax returns. We don't have to source our funds. Wow. How to look close. 2 weeks. Done deal. Now the interest went away. Okay. Because you're paying interest only. It's a moot point. Okay. So next story, selling interest rate. I had a trash company here in DC. And they needed to borrow $25,000, typical MCA business loan, call it what you want.
Short term. Yep. Yeah.
25% of my business is that. And while that gets a 4-letter word, sometimes it's a great feature for our borrowers, Kris. It gets a bad name, these MCAs, because without me, in this particular case, where a borrower had a 600 credit score, couldn't go to a bank, poor guy. He owns a trash company. He does $20,000 a week on sales. One of his trucks breaks down. So he has 5 trucks that net $4,000 a week. So one of his trucks breaks down. That's costing him $4K a week of lost revenue. Right. So I'm coming to him with a $25,000 loan he needs to fix the truck that's out. And I'm going to charge him $31,000. So he's going to pay $6,000 of interest over 8 months. So some people are going to fall off their chair, but just what you said,
right?
Then it turns it around.
Right. When it comes to that, who cares that he's paying
$6,000? You're losing $20,000 a month.
Correct.
So he's like, I'll sign up right now. So it's important that you show them that, hey, to borrow interest only or to borrow money at this, what are you losing by not taking my money?
Correct. I call it the lost value opportunity.
Right.
The lost value opportunity. And speaking of CPAs, right. And I hope I don't deter anybody that may be looking to come to training, because we do get a lot of CPAs and attorneys, et cetera. But I always say, the fears of influence, to the business owner, the CPA, the attorney, right. The kind of trusted advisor. But it blows my mind that everybody thinks just because they're a CPA or an attorney that they know a thing or two about finance, right? They don't teach finance in law school. Last I checked, right? They don't teach finance in law school. Right. And so like I would say, would you go to your CPA to get legal advice? No. Would you have your attorney prepare your tax returns? No. But why do you think, and given you're the professional in the business, why do you think that any of those people know better than what you know now, right?
Exactly.
And I always say it's a love-hate relationship, because you need those people because they feed you deals, but sometimes they could kill a deal because, they just give wrong advice about this industry. So hopefully you straighten the CPA out.
No, I did. And the borrower came back and says, Bennett, I'm not going to take your offer. It was like a 30-year fixed mortgage. She had to move her properties from her personal name into her LLC.
Right.
She called me up and said, I can put them all into an LLC for you. We'll do a quick claim at close. And she says, okay, what are you going to charge me? I said, I'm going to charge you 6.5%. It might be like 2.5 points. Is there a prepay? Yeah, declining 5-year. Mm-hmm. She says, let me talk to my CPA. He comes back, too expensive, Bennett, too expensive a loan. I go to the borrower. I go, oh my God. So what are you going to do now? You have nowhere else to go. So what does he want you to do? Right. I don't know. I was like, okay, well, call me if you know. What happened? She called me what I know.
Right.
Okay. Now, you heard some terms from me just now, Kris. And this is like when my wife listens to me and my kids and even maybe you, when I use quick claim and I'm using declining 5-year prepays. Mm-hmm. I knew none of this, Kris. I knew none of this. Even after the first week of training, while you're telling it to me at faster than sometimes I talk, it doesn't come together until you have an instance. Hey, Bennett, I've got a deal in a personal name. Can I move it over to my LLC? That's where the lenders come in, Kris.
Right.
I call my lender and
Right.
say, "Hey, can this be done?" Yeah. What's it called? I learned from my lenders. You're constantly learning in this business.
Yeah, I think sometimes graduates or just newer people in the business, they're ashamed of calling the lender and asking a question of what they don't know, but not realizing that it's in their best interest to help you because they make money when, you make money, they make money on the deal.
Exactly. And by you introducing us to those lenders gives us not only the credibility, but they might put the 2 cents into us because we are feeding them business. Let's be
Right.
real. Right.
Right. Right.
So, but I've learned so much, the definitions and all that's so important. And it just comes over time. you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, does your wife still think you're talking Chinese when you talk business at the table, or is it, is she
She's
used to
pretty
the terms?
impressed. No, she is. She's impressed. I mean,
Okay.
matter of fact, it's funny. I sold some wetsuits I had at my beach house. So my son dropped them off for me to sell to this guy on the way home from the beach. And he calls me up and says,
They're
"Dad."
used wetsuits?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I never knew there was a market for used wetsuits. That sounds like
Wetsuits are
buying a used
expensive.
couch or a used
I
mattress.
used to have jet skis and I used to paddle, surf at the beach
Right.
back in my day. And these are beautiful full suits and spring suits. They're
Isn't that
expensive.
like using a used mattress? Like to me, I wouldn't want to buy a used wetsuit.
Maybe you're right, but I got a lead right away when I put it out on the Facebook marketplace. It's unbelievable.
All right. Awesome.
And so, but you're right. You're right. I thought about it. I'm like, oh my God, during COVID and everything else, but I haven't worn these suits since I was 18. So,
Oh,
so we
so
probably
they're a
have,
much smaller size then.
exactly.
All right.
So
Got it.
so my son calls me and says, "Dad, I just dropped him off. I think he owns a landscaping business, right?" So I'm going to read you the text. Okay.
Mhm.
So I reached out to the guy today. "Hi, Jeff, this is Bennett Abel. You recently purchased my wetsuits. My son had noticed you have a landscaping business because you had trucks outside. I wanted to let you know that I own a lending company that specializes in working capital, lines of credit for small businesses, as well as equipment financing. We do real estate loans as well. Let me know if you ever need any financing." And I left my website. He writes me back. It says, "Hi, thanks again for the wetsuits. That wasn't my business, but I'll keep an eye out. My neighbor owns them. He might need you." So I can't stress enough.
Wow.
You take an opportunity when you have it, like you started this podcast.
Yeah.
If people aren't, keeping their eyes open and maybe putting a business card on that truck, you're losing.
Right. I mean, well, the thing is, you never know.
Right.
Tell me from maybe your experience. I mean, I've been in this business 20 plus years, and it's my experience that it's not so much who you're talking to that needs financing. It's who you're talking to and who they know who
That's
need
right.
financing, right? There's always like a 1 or 2 degree amount of separation. Do you
Absolutely.
encounter that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
"Hey, Bennett, I don't need you right now, but someone else does."
Right.
And, it's sometimes could be frustrating to some other graduates that listen to me right now, but this business is once you get it kind of down, it's very easy. Like
Yeah.
it's the lead generation, which I love that, and it's finding a home. And I have the homes. I've done my vetting. I'm so happy who I work with. I could live off the current borrowers I have,
Mhm.
but I'm always wanting more and more because
Can't
I
be
like to grow.
complacent.
Yeah.
I think as an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether you sell pizzas or you sell money, you can't be complacent.
And the second to end on that, like when I look at all these people struggling, or I see these flippers,
Mhm.
sometimes they'll make, I mean, I require a 15% gross profit margin. So if someone's going to buy a house, put XYZ rehab in it, and they're going to sell it for this price,
Mhm.
that has to be a margin of at least 15% profit for me to look at the deal.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes it might only be 20 grand. And I'm like, oh my God, Bennett just charged, let's say 2.5 points, and I made XYZ, and I'm in and out in 10 days. And this guy's sweating, selling that house to make that 20 grand. I love this business because I can get in, wash my hands, sell the deal, and I'm out. I don't have to worry about a house not selling in 12 months because of
Right.
COVID.
You have more time to put on wetsuits.
That's right. Well, go to the beach and work on the beach. But I mean, this
Yeah.
business is fun. It allows me to work from wherever, especially during COVID right now. I've been able to do everything, go anywhere I want.
And that's kind of I think my last question to you is how, being that we're in COVID right now, I mean, how has your business been doing since COVID? I mean, everybody's going to want to know that answer, I think.
Yeah. I think for the people getting in it now, they're loving life. There's no, like I said, when I go to the beach every weekend,
Mhm.
to visit my kids who are working there. You don't know COVID's going on. People are walking on the beach, shirts are off, they're smiling, glasses on, all is good. And it makes me forget about it. But when you come back to the suburbs on the Sunday nights and you go to the grocery store and everyone's freaked out and everyone's not looking at each other and they're just doing their thing, it makes you realize. So, for the guys getting in now, clear sailing ahead. I don't know there was ever a problem. So everything is really cleared up for the most part. And when I say for the most part, there's just a couple industries that have been offline still, but for what Bennett Abel focuses on, the fix and flips, the small balance commercial 1 to 4s, everything's back on. COVID, again, you've been in this business a little bit longer than I have. You've been through some other recessions. I didn't know what to expect. It freaked me out. I had a big plate, a big March, close to 7 to 8 loans coming down to the wire to close.
In March, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do about 12 to 18 a month loans. And that month, I probably had about 8 that were closing in that week of March 15th.
Right.
And Bennett were pulling out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You told the guy we're at closing. And I literally had to make some of the hardest calls I ever had to make by saying that we can't fund your deal.
Right.
And I don't blame the investors. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's uncertainty, right? I mean,
Right,
the
right.
capital markets kind of did a pause to see what was going to happen. And those of you that are watching this, that, if you don't know, but, a lot of places that fund transactions sell that paper on the secondary market, right? And it's really when the secondary market tightens up and they say, well, we're not going to buy that portfolio from you, Mr. Bank or Mr. Lender, and turn the bank or the lender kind of gets tightened. And, I think when COVID hit, everybody just paused for about 30 days, but things came back.
Right. And not only that, I was able to, there's a learning experience. There's lenders that we have, but then you often hear this term called, family offices and private money. And these are gentlemen that aren't tied to any kind of corporation or anything. They have a little group of money, older men, and they lend their own money out. And it's like a decision made by 2 people.
Right.
And that's where I pivoted to for those 2 months in March and April to go up to the guy in Connecticut that there's 3 guys that are 70 years old that lend their own money. And I was able to salvage some deals. So there's always solutions in our business. I love that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Can't fund you.
And I know that, I don't know if you did a little bit of this or not, but I know that as a whole, our graduates did about 180 to almost $200 million in PPP loans, right? Yeah. And so there were guys just like you, graduates, that were doing one thing, whether it be factoring, SBA loans, fix and flip. And then when that kind of paused for a second, PPP came to the market, right? And PPP was like a kid in a candy store. I mean, the fact that you could get, non-recourse, they don't have to pay it back, no personal guarantee. I mean, it was crazy. And so everybody morphed and shifted to all of a sudden pushing PPP loans. Like it took people out of their comfort zone. And you mentioned a good point. I think for a lot of our graduates, because we've been in business since 2009 in terms of CCTG, a lot of our graduates, this was their first kind of shake up in the market, right? I mean, I went through 08. I remember what 08 felt like, and we made it out good because my own financing company was diversified. I even remember 2011 when 9/11 happened, the market kind of shut down that year after. And so for I think the majority of our graduates, COVID kind of shook things up, but people did okay because they had to morph and change to where the product segment was, the hot product segment. And for a lot of them, it was the PPP program.
It's funny. I wasn't even going to do that. Some of my buddies were like, hey, dude, are you getting, you going after that PPP money? And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm not going to focus on that. I got so much going on. Then my borrowers started calling me. Hey, Ben, I'm getting locked out from my bank. I'm getting locked out. I can't get my own PPP loan. Are you doing it? Are you doing it? Hey, are you doing it, Bennett? Are you going to do it? I'm like, you know what? Let me look into it. So one of my biggest vendors, I'm actually one of their biggest vendors, one of my biggest lines of credit company.
Yeah.
They called on, they said, hey, Bennett, we're offering you a chance to facilitate this. Do you want to do it? I said, fine. What do I do? Bennett, you send this link out, you're done. You don't have to do much. Yeah. And I did it. And now I'm finally getting paid just because it takes, a little bit of time from the SBA to get paid.
Sure.
And I'm glad I did it. But more importantly, once again, my clients relied on me. See, now I have to take care of these people.
Right.
I'm their guy for really everything now. And that's the position I love to be in.
Right.
I'm happy to always talk to you, Kris. Like when you say thanks for doing, I know you're busy. I know you're this. I work at all hours of the day, night, morning. So it allows me to get on a call with you today. I was up at 7:30, returning some emails, and I just have a passion for the business. I have a passion for making money, and I have a platform that makes me money. So it's like, I think you said this at training too. It's like, I can turn on and off this business when I want. If Bennett wants to work today, I can. If he doesn't, I'm going to lose a lot of leads, but it's a great business. Like at 9 o'clock at night, I can do deals.
Yeah, it's a great part about it.
Great deal. Business,
That's the definition of an entrepreneur.
Right.
Absolutely.
It also makes me look at other businesses. I think I'm very happy. I feel like this is the kind of business where I can do this for later in my life. And it's all about connections. And even Rick, who just came on board, I'm so excited for one of my newest employees.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. He is getting off the ground great. And he loves it already. He's just like, you know what, Bennett, I'm loving who I'm talking to. I like the kind of people we deal with because we're supplying a need. We're not selling. I don't sell.
Right. So speaking of that, how many people do you have part of your organization?
Right now we have 4.
Awesome.
We have 4 originators. Yes.
Okay.
And
all in your state, or is it?
I've got 2 here in DC every day. We now have Rick in Charlotte. I've got 1 in Kansas City right now. So, and these are people, some used to work for me. Some came from you started our call off like this. Some came from the residential owner occupied business.
Okay.
They weren't making the commissions I'm making. They used to back in the subprime days.
Those were done.
Not making my commission. And I'm like, why would you not let me pay you? Come on board with me. Right. And I feel like I save people, Kris. And I'm sure when you're at your training, these people have been depressed for years. They don't like their jobs. They don't like Sunday nights. I'm saving them. You're going to be happy like Bennett Abel, and it's and the conferences are so much fun just to kind of break away. And, it gives you some sort of family because we're on a lonely island. This business, I have my own company. I motivate my team every morning, but it's a lonely island for some of those that don't have employees. It's nice to have the camaraderie. But more importantly too, I want to stress that as soon as, these graduates can get themselves an office, I would recommend it. A lot of people do work out of their houses, and God bless them. But a lot of my business came from being in an office. I'm in a shared office space, not like as big as a Regis. I'm in a privately owned shared space where I have my own 150 square foot office. I got a secretary that actually I share with one other guy. But there's people that go into the cafeteria to get a cup of coffee. Bennett, what do you do for a living,
all
sir?
Business owners.
There you go. And Bennett's bringing in food on Fridays, sponsored by Abel Commercial Funding. You know the game. Like, come on. Like, and what are you going to say? You're going to meet me at Starbucks? I recommend an office when you can afford one. I just think you're going to get there quicker again.
Well, and I also think that, particularly in the last 10 years, maybe 15 years, the office game has changed. There's people like yourself that it's not that expensive. I mean, it's not like you have to sign this huge lease, and there's a lot of shared office suite scenarios that you can have a nice address and share a secretary, share a conference room when needed. And the best part is you're the you're the candy store owner in that building because everybody needs money.
That's right.
All business owners need money. It's not like you're selling vacuum cleaners. What I mean?
And your statement that you pitched me, that you talked to me about was, I was coming to you, it was in 15, where the economy was pretty good in 2015.
Sure.
And we're all sitting there, and the first thing you say is, guys, in a good economy, you're going to make money, and in a bad economy, you're going to make money. And I'm not sure we're in a bad economy now. For some, it might be. But, that's true, Kris. In a great economy, when it's all good, people need money because they want to grow. And in a bad economy, they need to borrow off of their properties or their something, so their business is good for me then too.
Yeah.
Everybody
needs capital.
Right.
It does not matter. The demand is always at a constant high, I say. When it's good, you're growing. When it's bad, when you take away what everybody needs, meaning, and as little boys and little girls, we're taught where do you go for money? Go to the bank. And when the bank's not an option, now what? And listen, people always tell our enrollment specialist here, well, I could just go online. Well, sure, you can go online, but here's the thing. Do you even know what you're getting online? Do you even know that option that you clicked on is the best option for you. You don't. I think this business always has to be personal to some extent. You know, to deal with a professional like yourself, to kind of tell people the options, the pros and cons of each option, and then at the end of the day, present them with the best solution and, you know, help them close that transaction.
Well, that brings up a point about social media is that I'd say half my business comes from online.
Mm, yeah.
And a lot of clients say, Bennett, you know, we don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
We met you online. It concerns me. Where are you located? I'm in DC. Where are you, sir? I'm in Denver. I don't know if I want to go through you, Bennett. And that's where my social media, I'm a firm believer in Facebook, not just to let people know I have a plumber at my house today. I believe in social media.
Cats. Or
Right,
cats.
exactly.
Post pictures of cats.
Right. Because I'm exposed. Hey, you can see my family.
Right.
I have nothing to hide. You can go to my business page. You can
Right.
go to my recently funded deals and see videos of me and my employees.
Mm-hmm.
My presentation sets up for those that are concerned to go through someone they met online. But that's why websites, personality, videos, everything is so crucial in this business. Because
because people look you up. We're used to it. You know, people look us up. They make sure we have an office. They make sure, you know, Mike Geisler is not in his underwear, talking to him. You know, I mean, these days, you know, there's a lot of tools out there to kind of do a due diligence. And one of them is verifying through, you know, social media profiles, you know, other things out there than just your website.
Correct. Exactly.
All right. So this is what I like to do at the closing of this. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about what do you like to do personally. All right. Just a couple of questions what you like to do personally besides sell used wetsuits. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
What's your favorite hobby? What do you do outside of finance?
Golf, paddleboard, surf.
If you could live the life of anybody, who would it be?
I would say Mark Cuban.
Okay. All right.
I like basketball. He's a self-made billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
He was in an exciting business. He bought himself a dream of a basketball team. He's got his own show with the Shark Tank. He is the ultimate entrepreneur.
Okay. All right. Who, if you could meet anybody and sit down and talk to them for an hour, besides me, who would it be, dead or alive?
Maybe Jeff Bezos or maybe Bill Gates.
Okay.
Just because of their innovation and just blows me away of how he took Amazon to where it is right now. Who had that knowledge of how did he know to do that from a bookstore to what it is now? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you know, I've heard stories that he actually, like, things that you see come out today, he was already working on 10 years ago, right? Yeah. So there's always stuff like in the queue of development that comes out 5-10 years, which I think is huge for business. You always have to be thinking ahead. Always have to be thinking.
Yeah.
What sucks about this business?
God, Kris, I mean, sometimes I just don't have control of I don't know. I mean, there's nothing really that does suck about the business, to be honest with you. I mean,
you never had like a borrower.
I guess what sucks about the business is that I work really hard on a deal,
right?
And the appraisal comes back and it's light on value, you know, and it hurts my deal. My client doesn't get the money they want out of it, and then they pull out of the deal.
Got it.
Well, I mean, that third party is a problem for me sometimes.
Here's a question I always wanted to ask you. Have you ever checked your heartbeat to see how fast it's beating?
No.
Okay. You probably should.
I don't know. It's scaring me.
You're always so quick. You're always so quick. You're always so rapid. Even when I meet you personally, it's like boom, 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 boom. And like a lot of times I even have a struggle to even keep up with answering your questions. So.
No, I mean, it's true though. You got to be quick on your feet in sales. And I don't mean that in a cheesy way. Yeah. I'm just like, you know, I'm a people person, and maybe at times I was told I got to slow down. Even when I'm pitching on the phone with my borrowers, mm-hmm. someone might overhear me like, God, Bennett, you talk so fast. Yeah. But sometimes, Kris, I can tell my borrower's speed. And and sometimes I say, hey, Kris, I'm so sorry I'm speaking so fast. Hey, Bennett, I got you, man. I'm just right with you. I got you.
And you're not even Italian. That's the thing. You're not even Italian and you speak that fast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Bennett, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. I knew there's some takeaways here that I even learned about you, and I've known you for 4 or 5 years now. So I appreciate it. I thank you. You are one of the what I call the greats in the CCTG land, and your willingness to help people as well, even former graduates that we have out there. I know you help some of them, so I do appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Kris, for inviting me on the show. I'm happy to do it. Anything for you. You've taught me a lot, and I owe you a lot. I trusted in you and the company to get me started, and you guys are there for me now. And anything I can do to help, I feel I'm a success story, and I'd like to share it. So
Awesome.
Looking for many more years with you.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. All right. Thank you. All right, guys, this wraps up this episode of Entrepreneurs in Finance. We'll see you next time. Thank you. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.